One way of addressing a negative production externality is through a Pigouvian per unit tax, as analyzed in graph 21.2. Another way is to construct a pollution voucher, or what is often referred to as a cap-and-trade system. Under such a system, the government sets an overall allowable level of emissions and then issues pollution permits or pollution vouchers that permit the owners of the vouchers to pollute up to a certain level. Owners of permits are allowed to sell them if they choose not to use the permits. Thus, the name cap for the overall cap that is placed on pollution, and trade because owners of permits are allowed to trade them. Demand for pollution vouchers then comes from firms who use pollution-emitting production processes. Some will have a greater willingness to pay for such vouchers, and some will have a lower willingness to pay depending on how much emissions they produce and on how easy it is for them to reduce the emissions by simply putting pollution-abating technologies in place. The supply of vouchers is set perfectly inelastically by the government as it determines the overall cap on pollution emissions. The price of vouchers is then determined by the market, not by the government. The government simply set the quantity, and as a result, the equilibrium price P* emerges. This is in fact the attractive feature of cap-and-trade systems. All the government has to determine is how much pollution it is willing to tolerate. The rest is done by the market, as the market determines which firms end up polluting and which firms end up not polluting. Firms for whom it is relatively easy to reduce pollution will switch to pollution-abating technologies and not buy the vouchers, whereas firms for whom it is difficult to reduce pollution will end up buying the vouchers. As a result, the overall reduction in pollution is achieved at the lowest possible cost. Note that a cap-and-trade system like this does not guarantee that we'll achieve the efficient level of pollution. It simply guarantees that whatever pollution level the government sets will be attained in the least cost way. Whether the government in fact sets the efficient level of pollution by setting the efficient cap on pollution depends on the political process. In setting the acceptable level of pollution, the government guarantees that we achieve a certain pollution outcome, but it doesn't know what price will ultimately be charged to firms for polluting. That price is determined in the market. The government could instead set the price of polluting, charge a tax per unit of pollution emitted, but in that case it wouldn't be able to tell how much pollution will actually result from setting that price. That would be determined in the market. A cap-and-trade system sets the quantity of pollution and lets the price be set by the market, whereas a pollution tax sets the price on pollution and lets the market determine the quantity of pollution that will result. Finally, note that by a pollution tax we mean something different than the Pigouvian tax analyzed in graph 21.2. Such a Pigouvian tax is a tax on output. A pollution tax is a tax on emitting pollution, just as a cap-and-trade system comes up with a price for emitting pollution. Pollution taxes and cap-and-trade systems therefore arrive directly at a price for polluting, whereas a Pigouvian tax is simply a per-unit tax on the output that's produced by polluting industries.